tell you something I've learned after more than 20 years working in men's health. Most men who come into my office aren't struggling because they don't care. They're struggling because nobody ever taught them the right things, and nowhere is that more true than in the bedroom. Have you ever been in that moment, close to her, doing everything you thought was right, and she just doesn't respond the way you hoped? Maybe she seems tense. Maybe she's quiet. Maybe she's just lying there, and you can feel that invisible wall between you, and you have no idea why it's there. If that's ever happened to you, I want you to know something. It's not your fault. Nobody taught you this stuff. Not your dad, not your coaches, not your school. And honestly, the things most men learned from watching adult films have done more damage than good. I'm Dr. Ava Remington, and I've spent over 2 decades helping men understand their health. All of it, including the parts nobody wants to talk about at the dinner table. Today I'm going to share 5 things women secretly wish you'd stop doing when you go down on them. By the end of this, you'll know exactly how to turn oral sex from something she merely tolerates into something she genuinely craves. And make sure you stay with me through mistake number 3, because that one single thing is the exact reason she ends up feeling less pleasure, not more. And I'd bet good money you're doing it right now without even realizing it. If you're serious about becoming the kind of man she can't stop thinking about, hit that subscribe button. We're going deep today. Now, before we get into it, I want to say something directly to the guys watching this who might be in their 50s, 60s, 70s, or beyond. I see you. I hear from men your age every single week in my practice, and the most common thing they tell me is, "Doc, I wish I'd known this 30 years ago." Well, you know it now, and that matters. It is never, never too late to become a better partner. The fact that you're here watching this means you care. And caring is already more than most men ever bring to the table. All right, let's start with mistake number 1. And this one catches almost every man off guard because it feels so counterintuitive. Imagine you're finally getting that massage you've been putting off for months. You're on the table, you're relaxed, and the therapist starts working. But instead of moving around your whole back, your shoulders, your neck, they just press the same spot on your lower back. Over and over. Same pressure, same spot. No matter how skilled they are, after a while, that stops feeling good. Your brain checks out, your body disconnects, the pleasure just disappears. That's exactly what happens when you focus only on her genitals from the start. I know, that sounds backwards. As men, most of us would be perfectly happy if all the attention went straight to the main event. But here's the thing, women's arousal works completely differently. For men, arousal tends to be quick, localized, and direct, like flipping a switch. For women, arousal travels through the entire nervous system, its full body, it's slow building. It requires the whole picture, not just one piece of it. So what does that mean in practice? It means you need to engage her whole body before you ever get between her legs, her belly, her inner thighs, her hips, her chest. Run your hands along her sides. Kiss the inside of her wrists. That spot right there has more nerve endings than most people realize. Trace your fingers down her spine and watch what happens to her breathing. When she feels every part of her body being noticed, being touched with intention, she relaxes. And that relaxation, that's not a side effect. That is the goal, because relaxation is how you create space for deeper pleasure. It's how you open the door to the kind of experience that she'll be thinking about for days. Think of it like turning on the lights in a house. You don't just flip one switch and expect every room to glow. You move through the house, room by room, filling each space with light. Touch her everywhere, her shoulders, her collarbone, the soft skin behind her knees. And you'll notice how her whole body starts to respond. Her breathing deepens, her muscles soften, and she begins to crave what's coming next with an intensity you probably haven't seen from her in a while. Now, mistake number 2 begins before you even get close to her. And this one, in my clinical experience, is the one that's robbed more men of great intimate experiences than almost anything else. Have you ever tried to cook the perfect steak by tossing it into a cold skillet and then blasting the heat to high? If you have, you know what you get. Burnt on the outside, raw in the middle, and a whole lot of disappointment. That's exactly what happens when a man dives straight into oral sex without warming her up first. Here's something I need you to understand, and I mean really understand, not just nod along to. For women, oral sex is not foreplay. It is the main course, and she needs her body or in her mind warmed up long before you get there. Now, some of you might be thinking, Ava, we've been together for 20 years. We don't really do the whole buildup thing anymore. And I hear that. But I'm telling you, from 20 years of sitting across from couples in my practice, the absence of anticipation is one of the biggest reasons intimacy starts to feel routine and disconnected. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to take an hour. Start with her mind. Text her something earlier in the day that lets her know she's on your mind. It doesn't have to be anything over the top, just something that makes her feel seen and desired. That little moment plants a seed that grows all day long. By the time you're together, she's already thinking about you. Then when you're in the same room, warm her senses. Whisper something in her ear, trace your fingers along her arm. Look at her, really look at her, the way you did when things were new. Then warm her body, kiss her neck, her collarbone, her belly, the inside of her thighs. Let her want you so much that she's the one pulling you closer, not the other way around. When you build that anticipation properly, her body responds in a completely different way than it does when you rush. Blood flow increases to all the right places. Sensitivity heightens across her whole body. She becomes 10 times more receptive to everything you do. Rushing kills arousal. Patience, real, deliberate patience, builds it into something that neither of you will forget. All right, mistake number 3. I told you at the top that this was the big one, and I meant it. Too many men, and I've heard this story in my office more times than I can count, try to ramp up intensity right from the start. Faster tongue, harder pressure, more fingers, more speed. They think that more equals better, that intensity equals pleasure. But for most women, it is the exact opposite. Women need a slow buildup, not because they're difficult or complicated, but because that's genuinely how their arousal works. Starting gentle and building gradually isn't just a nice idea. It's the physiological blueprint for her pleasure. So here's what I want you to do. Start slow. I mean really slow, slower than feels natural to you. Savor the moment. Pay attention to what her body is telling you, because her body is always talking. Listen to her breathing. Does it deepen when you do something a certain way? Notice the sounds she makes. Feel how her hips move. Do they press towards you or pull back? These are not subtle things if you're paying attention. These are her signals, and they're telling you everything you need to know about when to stay exactly where you are, and when it's time to gradually increase intensity. The problem is, most men learned their approach from adult films or from their own impatient guesswork, and neither of those things reflects how real intimacy works for real women. Real intimacy doesn't follow a script. It follows her body's natural rhythm. And when you learn to read that rhythm, instead of imposing your own timeline on it, everything, and I mean everything, changes. Think of arousal for women like a dimmer switch, not a light switch. You don't flip it on. You slowly, steadily, gradually turn it up. And when you finally do increase the intensity, it doesn't feel like a shock to her system. It feels like a natural wave that she's been riding the whole time. That's the difference between an experience she gets through and an experience she gets lost in. I've had men in their 60s come back to me after applying this one change, just this one, and tell me it completely transformed their intimate life. Not because anything about their physical capability changed, but because they finally stopped rushing and started listening. Now, mistake number 4 is about the clitoris. And look, I know you've heard about this before. Plenty of videos talk about it. But what I want to share with you today goes a little deeper than the usual advice. Yes, the clitoris is incredibly important. It has over 8,000 nerve endings, more than any other part of the human body. So of course it matters. But here's what most people don't tell you. Focusing only on the clitoris, especially too soon, can actually limit her pleasure rather than enhance it. Too much direct stimulation too early can lead to numbness, overstimulation, or a kind of sensory overload that shuts her down rather than opening her up. Think of it this way. Imagine someone invites you to an incredible 5-course dinner at your favorite steakhouse. You sit down, and before the bread even hits the table, they bring out the dessert and tell you that's all you're getting. Sure, the dessert might be great, but you're going to miss out on everything that makes a real meal memorable. The build-up, the variety, the different flavors that play off each other and make that final bite mean something. The whole area around the clitoris, the outer lips, the inner thighs, the perineum, the tissue surrounding it, is rich with nerve endings. Use all of it. Mix up your pressure, change your rhythm. Tease the surrounding area before you go directly to the clitoris. Use variety in your patterns. When you build layers of sensation instead of hammering away at one point, you create a kind of pleasure that's richer and deeper than anything a single focus approach can deliver. I want to be direct with you here because I think you deserve straight talk. A lot of intimacy guides out there treat the clitoris like a cheat code. Like if you just find the spot and press it long enough, you win. That's not how it works. Every woman is different. Some are more sensitive there than others. Some need indirect stimulation for longer before they want direct contact. The only way to know what works for the woman you're with is to pay attention to her, not to a formula. And for the men watching who've been with the same partner for years and feel like you already know her body, I gently challenge that assumption. Women's bodies change over time, especially after hormonal shifts that come with age. What worked 5 years ago might not be what works today. Stay curious. Stay attentive. Ask her. Not in a clinical way, just a simple, does this feel good? In the moment goes a long way, even if it feels awkward the first time you do it. Now, mistake number 5. This is the one that can undo everything you've done right. And in my experience, it's the one men are least prepared for. Because most of us were never taught that what happens after matters just as much as everything that came before. Have you ever been at a great party? Really having the time of your life, laughing, connecting, feeling fully alive, and then suddenly everyone just vanishes? The music stops, the lights go up, you're standing alone in the middle of an empty room. That feeling of abrupt disconnection, of going from full to empty in an instant, that is exactly what a woman feels when a man checks out the moment she finishes. When a woman orgasms, her body floods with oxytocin. You've probably heard of it, the bonding hormone. Her nervous system is wide open, her emotions are heightened. She's in a vulnerable, tender state, and in that moment, what she needs more than anything is closeness, warmth, to feel seen and held and cherished. So after she comes, stay. Don't roll over, don't reach for your phone, don't start thinking about what you want to do next. Hold her, kiss her softly, let her feel your presence. Give her at least 15 minutes, and honestly, for some women, even longer, to come back down gradually. This is what transforms good oral sex into genuinely unforgettable intimacy. I've had men in their 70s tell me their wives teared up after they finally started staying present in the aftercare, because for the first time in years, they felt truly cherished rather than like a means to an end. That's not a small thing. That's everything. Here's what I need you to understand. Most men treat orgasm like the finish line. Get her there, and the race is over. But for women, the moments after climax are just as important as the buildup. Her emotional system doesn't power down the second the physical experience ends. If anything, it's more open than ever. And if you leave, physically or emotionally, up in that moment, she feels it. Even if she doesn't say anything. Even if she smiles and says it's fine, she feels it. But when you stay, when you hold her close, when you whisper something kind, when you just breathe with her, you're doing something profound. You're telling her, without words, that this wasn't just about the physical act for you. You're creating a bond that goes way beyond what happened in the last hour. You're giving her emotional safety. And for women, emotional safety and physical pleasure are not two separate things. They are completely, deeply intertwined. Now I want to step back for a moment and speak to something that came up in my mind as I was preparing to talk to you today, because I think it's important. A lot of men watching this, particularly those of you who are older, grew up in a time when nobody talked about any of this. Sex education, if you got any at all, was a diagram on a chalkboard and a lot of nervous laughter. Your parents probably didn't have this conversation with you. Your friends were just as clueless, even if they didn't let on. And so you went into some of the most intimate experiences of your life completely unprepared, doing your best with zero guidance. I want to say this plainly. That was not your fault. The failure was in the culture that surrounded you, not in you as a man or a partner. The fact that you're here right now, genuinely wanting to do better, genuinely wanting to understand, that says everything about your character. It is not too late. I promise you that. I have a patient. I won't use his name, of course, who came to see me a few years ago at 71 years old. He'd been married for over 40 years. He said, almost embarrassed, "Doc, I've been doing this wrong for decades, and I'm just now figuring it out." We talked through exactly the kind of things I've shared with you today. He came back 6 months later, looking like a different man. Not because anything changed physically, but because his relationship had transformed. His wife told him it felt like dating again. That is available to you right now, at whatever age you are watching this. So let me bring it all together for you. Great oral sex, and more importantly, great intimacy, isn't about speed. It isn't about intensity. It isn't about technique in the mechanical sense at all. It's about 5 things that I want you to carry with you. First, engage her whole body before you go anywhere near her genitals. Touch her everywhere. Make her feel every inch of herself being seen and desired. Second, build anticipation instead of rushing. Warm her mind, her senses, and her body in that order. Give her something to look forward to long before you're in the same room. Third, start slow and increase intensity gradually, following her body's signals, not your own impatience. The dimmer switch, not the light switch. Fourth, explore variety instead of fixating on one spot. The whole area is rich with sensation. Use all of it, build layers. Fifth, and maybe most importantly, stay connected afterward. Hold her, be present. Let the experience end with closeness, not absence. The men who understand these 5 things don't just satisfy their partners. They create experiences that she carries with her, that she thinks about, that make her feel genuinely lucky to be with someone who cares enough to show up fully. You're not just giving her an orgasm. You're giving her intimacy. You're giving her safety. You're giving her the feeling of being truly known and wanted. And that, I can tell you from over 20 years in this field, that is what people remember. That is what lasts. If this conversation shifted something for you, if it gave you even one thing you're going to think about differently, I want to hear about it. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 5 mistakes hit closest to home. I read every single one and I respond when I can, because this community matters to me. Hit that subscribe button if you want more honest, no-nonsense conversations about men's health, intimacy, and everything in between. I put out new content every week, and I promise you, we're just getting started. Take care of yourselves because you are absolutely worth it.